Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is destruction creation. That it's a natural cycle of life that things decay in order for new life to emerge. And um, that old systems and structures fall apart or are destroyed in order to make way for the new. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So it should be a fun conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling as you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to be here with you this morning. And good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. Great to have you join us this morning. And we're talking about destruction, creation, sort of the yin and yang of the universe, and how I'm not necessarily talking about active destruction, but decay, um, and and emergence, where old structures crumble to make way for the new. It's kind of like when we this is active destruction, I guess, but when we think about neighborhoods and old buildings, and how the old building will be destroyed to be able to erect a new building on that parcel of land, for example. And I think we experience this within ourselves often, is when we are evolving, we can sort of feel the dismemberment, the dismembering, the deconstruction of our notion of self, our existing notion of self, as a new way of being is emergent. And often these aspects of self compete with one another. And it can be very, very uncomfortable to be in that transitional state where we're moving from one octave to another. There's the creation, there's the emergence of something new, at the same time that there is a dissolution, or even a death, a dying off of something that has outlived its time, or has come to the end of its time. So we could also be calling this segment Death and Rebirth, that this is not a I guess we can call it cataclysmic, but it's not out of the norm. It's part of our process of growth, evolution, transformation, emergence, and of necessity, the old ways of being, the old structures need to dissolve, need to fall away in order to make way for the new. And I think this is one of the death is actually one of the blessings of life emerging, because if there were not death, the change would be very hard to implement, because there's such a strong recorded notion, memory of how things are as a fixed perception, that those ideas need to be able to fall away to make room for new ideas, new ways of being. So Rosalind says the leaves and branches died off. The tree trunk grows wider. The canopy grows back bigger. You are such a poet, Rosalind. I so appreciate you and your contributions and your presence in these mornings together. It's so enriching to me. I just want you to know that. And I imagine that it is for everyone else who joins us as well. And so these cycles of sometimes we could call small deaths, and other times cataclysmic deaths, are transformations that enable evolution. If we think about the extinctions, the previous extinctions on this planet, that made way for new forms of life, new emergence. I'm not saying that this extinction that humans have contributed to so um, enthusiastically is necessarily I was going to say is necessarily a positive thing. I would be, we are all inclined to believe that it is not. And I guess in the larger scheme of the universe and universal time and the long, long history of the planet and its evolution of life, who knows? We don't actually know. But what I do know is that there are these cycles of life, and death is an instrumental part of that. The falling away of prevalent forms, existing forms, and in order for new forms to emerge. And if we lived forever in the same physical form, we would be carrying over all kinds of ideas that and ways of being that maybe we need to evolve out of. For instance, if the folks who had slaves and believed that that was okay were still living, we would be in a very different predicament than we are right now, probably. And I'm not saying that all change is good or all change is bad. I don't think we're in a position to be able to determine that, although we have the arrogance to believe that we can. And there one thing that I feel pretty certain of, one of my more solidly operating hypotheses is that there's a lot more going on here than we have any idea. And beautifully, we're starting to have some lens into that, even through science, where we're discovering so many things about the natural world that were unfathomable not that long ago, and including the intelligence and the dimensionality of the natural world, that in many cases actually surpasses our own, though I don't hear many people saying that actually. But when we look at the integration of systems that we're starting to perceive, but the systems of nature and the intercommunication between matter and life forms, and the intricate web of life all around us, when we start, as we're gaining some greater insight that is I'm going to say scientifically founded, because I think that's our currently most powerful religion. Um, and that's a whole other conversation, but this scientifically validated truths of the brilliance of nature and our surrounding world. What we are learning is how little we know. I hope that's what we're learning, because maybe as we learn that, our arrogance about and sense of superiority in the world will decrease, and maybe we can become greater students of the universal wisdom surrounding us at all moments. That would be a lovely thing. Anyway, so creation, destruction, destruction, creation. It's the cycle. It's the yin and yang, shadow and light, birth and death, the cycle of life. And it's interesting because we break those concepts are broken into a duality that actually power each other within a greater unity. So that greater unity is like the third force, within which all these dualities arise, but the dualities act like an engine that create motion within this unifying wholeness. And as human beings, we can easily get stuck on one side of that coin, of that duality coin, where what we see only destruction. We see only creation and only the value of creation, and not the value of the destruction or the dissolution. And I think it's important to recognize that these dualities serve each other, power each other, in a cycle of change. And I guess within that greater whole, the unifying third force, that is actually the side or the edge of the coin rather than either side of it, the unifying force, is unchanging in that it is in constant change. So that constancy of change translates in its way to unchanging, right? I know that sounds kind of paradoxical, but I think we get to live in these spaces of duality and unity or wholeness. And that it's kind of the particle and wave conversation again, that it's not the nature of the thing that is either particle or wave. It's defined by our perception. I haven't ever heard that spoken in that way, but I think that that's probably closest to the truth of it, is that whatever that thing is that's perceived as particle or wave, it is both and neither, or all of the above. And the factor that's the determining factor is our perception or our interpretation. And in our journey to awakening, we get to hold these paradoxes with open hand instead of trying to really grasp it, because as soon as we try to grasp it, I think it just slips through our fingers. I think it's sort of beyond our capacity perhaps to define with words, or to constrain to a structured thought. I think what we're looking at, it's sort of the idea of the koan, or a koan, where we think beyond thought, or we think to the point that our brain sort of short circuits and takes us into another dimension of awareness, where we get to quantum jump into a different dimension of experience and perception that goes beyond the linear constraints of time and space into this wholeness, perhaps. So Rosalind says, did my higher self pick the lessons for me to experience in this lifetime? Can't I just ask the teacher who made up the exam what are the answers? So, okay, I love these questions, Rosalind. So I am inclined to say, not like I know, but in response to the question, did my higher self pick the lessons for me to experience in this lifetime? I take that on as a yes. That I came here with a purpose, that I came here with certain talents, skills, passions, questions, and here I am being life, expressing itself from the net framework of those constraints, perhaps. But we're making all this up, right? So if that's a story that serves, great, let's use that story. And then, can I just ask the teacher who made up the exam what the answers are? So that question goes to what we were talking about the other day about life being process rather than product. And the answers are product. And the questing, the pursuit or inquiry into the question, is the process. And what if life is the process? What if it's really more about being in the question than finding the answers. Because being in the question is being receiving, is being willing to receive. Being in the question is open hand. Answers are kind of like the closed hand. There's not room for a whole lot in there once we get the answers, right? So being in the question, that's why I say, my current hypothesis or whatever, the beliefs that I am currently entertaining, not like they're true, but more like they're hypotheses. And so being in the question is being engaged with life. Being in the answer is like shutting that down and presuming that we actually know, rather than being in the exploration, which is curiosity, engagement. The answer kind of shuts it down and says, okay, next. I'm done with that one. Now I can go next. But I think you can see how that closes off possibility. It's such an interesting thing. Someone in my life used to always say, the answer is, that's where they would start. The answer is, and my response to that was, I didn't even ask the question. I didn't even get to ask the question. And how do you know that you're answering the question that I had in the first place? And, how do you know that that's the answer anyway? And so when we have questions, that takes us on a quest. It takes us on a journey. Questions are an invitation to a journey. And that journey is its own reward. It's not finding the answer at the end. Like, what is the meaning of life? That wonderful question, what is the meaning of life? Personally, I think we get to make it up. I think life is its own expression. But that's, maybe that's just my perspective, right? Hello, Healing Market. Welcome. So good to have you join us this morning. So life is its own question and its own answer. And we get to be present to that inquiry as our process, as the process of our own emergence and experience. What if we are life getting to know itself? That we're expressing life in its myriad forms so that it can better experience and see itself, witness itself, expand itself. And all of it, destruction, creation, life, death, dark, light, all of it is a piece of that unbounded expressiveness. All of it. Again, my current working hypothesis, not like I'm right. Just feel into it. Feel what it feels like for you. If that rings true enough to be something to experiment with as a lens through which to live life and feel into life and experience and express whatever it is that is the essence that you are. So we look at so much of what's happening in the world and experience it as crisis, and there's so much pain and so much loss, there is. And from another lens, from another level, all of that shifts in its significance, meaning not that it necessarily becomes insignificant, although it may, but the impact of it, the representation that it is of a greater process may shift as we stand back from that that place, that perspective, to get a broader view. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's a tremendous pleasure and privilege to have the opportunity to be musing together about this human experience that we're having and the nature of the universe. And so, with much appreciation,